AITA for ignoring my injured mom after she cut me out of her will. Small update, sometimes, the ReadIT community is empathy and strength in the best way. You all gave me the clarity of perspective and I'm sorry I couldn't reply to everyone individually. But before I could talk myself out of it, I texted my mom's youngest sibling and told her I was tapping out. I ranted a bit. A lot. She bought a plane ticket and is going down to help mom. She completely understood and was super supportive. She told me that mom has been having memory issues and is planning to move to assisted care. Okay. She said she's going to make that a priority when she's down to help. Technically she's my aunt but I never knew her growing up, but it was nice to feel like a family member had my back. I don't know if she told mom or shared my texts, but mom has been calling. I muted her. I don't know what happens next, but I think a good night's sleep is definitely first. Thank you again for being a clear voice. Original post, I, 50F, am the eldest of divorced parents. My father is happily remarried with more kids, but my mother stayed single and relies on me and my younger brother, 45, to come help her out in her retirement village regularly. It's a flight and a rental car to get to her, so it's kind of a pain. What makes it worse is that my younger brother, who is single with no kids, will never go down when she needs something, only when it aligns with his schedule. So he'll go down during his summer vacation and then help with things like moving furniture or taking her car in to be serviced. However, if it's an emergency of any kind, it's all on me. I'm married with kids in school and a decent career and a side gig. But all hell breaks loose if I don't go. Passive-aggressive texts, relatives pestering, etc. When I ask if anyone else could step in, the answer is always, but you're the one she wants. How big a deal can this be? This woman is the most accident and illness-prone human you'll meet. And it's all for real. In the last few years it's been a head-on car collision, cancer twice, another car accident, T-boned, and pneumonia. She wasn't like this growing up, just since retiring. So even staying the least amount of days, to the point of having to go back once when the caregiver I found flaked. I've burned through PTO, cashed in savings, left the kids to have milestones without me. And usually when I'm with her, she talks on and on about my golden brother. See how he hung that new picture when he was here? He's so handy. Annoying as hell, but I've had a lifetime to get used to it. Some months ago, I found out by accident that except for some small amounts for my kids, she's leaving everything to my brother. It will be a decent amount, $250,000+. I was so perplexed and admittedly hurt. She refused to talk to me about it, hung up on me and ignored texts, so I was stuck trying to figure out what I did to make her decide to do this. Eventually, one of her siblings told me that it was to ensure my brother can retire comfortably. He's always worked low-wage jobs. However, he has few expenses because he lives completely free with a wealthy relative who has a large home, that he will also be inheriting. Recently, she had another accident and called me to help. I got the call from the hospital and then her rehab center because even though my brother is her medical POA, I'm always the name and number she gives out. When I didn't say I'd be coming, she sent texts complaining of how hard it is to not be able to drive or do many things and pushed for my travel plans. My love for her and care for her was never based on money. She's my mom. But I ended up telling her I couldn't come down. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I know she's in pain and struggling. I know that her siblings and friends are too old and too far to be much help. But in a moment of spite, I told her to get my brother to do it, and of course she defended him and added that he couldn't, as a guy, help with some things. My spouse says I'm in the right, that I've prioritized her needs all my life, and even if it's because of the will, it was past time for me to stop doing everything. But others, especially family, can't understand why I haven't gone down yet, and I end up feeling so disappointed in myself. Mom sends me, woe is me, texts about how she will manage without me even though everything's a struggle, the injuries are legitimately difficult. Now she's sending texts about how she understands I'm too busy and she'll call the youngest of her siblings, 67F, if she has to. So, AITA for leaving my injured mom on her own because she cut me out of her will. What do you guys think? Leave your comments after the beep BIP and then we go to Redditors' comments now. Pretzel Mama. Nope, tell her bluntly to call the kid she's leaving all her money to. Bill Historical 9001. This is going to sound horrible of me. I was so pissed that my grandmother died with money in the bank. She had dementia and was mentally ill her whole life. My mom took care of her for 10 years. No other family would take her. If I'd known she had as much money as she did, we're talking $500,000 here, at 95 I'd have insisted she go to a good home. And then she divided her money to all her kids even though my mom was the only one to take care of her. Rucky. I have cared for my parents for over 20 years. My sibling did nothing. I used up all my leave to take them to doctor's appointments, get their groceries, clean the house and had to clear out and sell the house etc. My surviving parent passed away early this year. The 3 grandchildren get 10% each. My sibling gets 30%, 2 of the grandchildren are theirs, the other is the child of a deceased sibling. I get 40%. My parents were trying to be fair. An extra $50,000 for 20 years of care feels very unfair. Short, Classroom 2559. My mom took care of both parents for years but somehow the will got changed and she was screwed out of sentimental things that were promised to her. Then when Grandpa passed, I had to pay for all the remaining things to be shipped to her because my uncle couldn't be bothered to honor his promise to bring it to her the next time he would be in the area. He even let one brother run off with a painting that was supposed to go to her and I had to threaten to get the police involved. Told them I'd report it stolen and send them straight to his house. My family always just expected my mother to handle everything and when she couldn't deal with Grandpa's dementia I ended up doing it for years until I couldn't anymore. Then his precious golden child acted like he was a saint for dealing with it all for a few short years after Mom had handled everything since her early 20s. The eldest got pretty much everything, the will got changed after the dementia diagnosis but my mom refused to contest it. OP is NTA. Mom's golden child can deal with Mom. He's the POA after all. Concretism. Your mother refuses to spend her $250,000 on hiring the help she needs. Instead, she has used your savings and PTO to preserve her savings for your brother. I don't think you are mad enough. Spend time with your children and send your mom in-home aid information. NTA. Canyonimun. NTA. She's disowned you in her will and you're not her POA. With that amount of money, she can also look into hiring a personal care assistant for herself. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially when they're not appreciative of your help and sacrifices. Focus on yourself and on your family. Quit running to her side. Your brother, the one she loves and rewards, already comes down when he can. I'm sure your spouse will also be very appreciative of you staying home and from now on using your PTO for your nuclear family. Open, Incident, 3601. NTA. Mom, you disowned me without the courtesy of even explaining why or what I had done to deserve that. You've hung up on me and refused to answer why you felt I deserved to be completely excluded. You have been very clear that brother is your preferred child, you will need to arrange with him for your emergencies. I can no longer spend my limited PTO, finances, and family time away from my own children to cater to you. Please call your POA and make arrangements with him. I would also say, Mom, you have a paid-off house and a healthy savings available for your well-being. If you can no longer manage being at home alone, it's time to use that house and savings to secure your long-term care in a facility with resources for the amount of help you require now or a live-in nurse. I can no longer afford to come to you outside of visits scheduled in advance. 247 Justice. My grandmother did this and continued to let my parent bust their ass doing things for her until they found out about the transfer of assets and stopped. She gave my uncle her POA and made him her medical proxy when she deeded the house to him, basically all his. As soon as she got sick and couldn't stay alone anymore, he threw her into a facility, moved into her house with his girlfriend and deadbeat friends, and took ownership of everything she had and left her to die within a few months. My parent would have cared for her, would have stayed in her house with her, would have shared everything fairly and would have done everything to keep her healthy. She made a choice and she got to lie with it, just not for long. K__Ernie. NTA. You tell family you are not her personal care assistant. You can't take any more time off from your job. Your mom needs to figure this out. She can literally hire people to care for her. I would have one direct conversation with your mom and tell her what you are and are not willing to do going forward, then stick to it. You can also let her know that you are hurt she favors your brother. Praises him for doing small little things while demanding way more from you. If you are feeling very generous, you could offer more care if she moves to the city you live in, but again be very clear on what that would look like. I would even put it as writing so that there is no room for later confusion on the topic. Boo 155. Absolutely NTA. You're not leaving her on her own because of the will, that was just the final straw. She's been taking advantage of you for years, and so has your lazy brother. It sucks being the one who does most of the work while the parent worships the other sibling. BTDT. I became my mom's primary caregiver and I would not do it again. If your mother doesn't like being alone, let her move closer to your brother. So moistly moist. Next time a hospital or doctor calls you, tell them to call her medical power of attorney holder because you are not making any decisions or taking responsibility. I get that it's not about the money at all and you feel guilty. I have a friend who's a middle child and was the first one her mom would always call on in an emergency, but the one her mom treated like shit. Called her stupid, called her an idiot. Even if my friend wanted a particular bit of leftover from Thanksgiving dinner, her mom would pack it up and give it to her sister. Right in front of her face. It's never going to change. Your mom is old, but she is getting what karma is giving to her. Focus on your family so that your kids will appreciate you and want to be with you when you're old. Green Flamingo Cat. NTA. My mom was in the exact same situation with her mom. She took care of my grandma on almost a daily basis. Rushed over whenever she cried wolf. My uncle lives in another state. He helps out when he visits, and he's a good guy, but his visits are infrequent. I don't blame him. Any sane person would distance themselves from my grandma, who is manipulative and mean. He moved to another state specifically to get away from her. Anyway, she constantly tells my mother that her brother is the golden child. She left everything to my uncle. Even berated my mother to try and force her to give up her half of the house so it could be willed to my uncle. Mom paid for half my grandmother's house, which is why she owns half of it. I think you are doing the right thing by distancing yourself from your mother. You jump to help her, and she hurts you in return. Focus on your job and your kids. You have plenty in your life without her. It's not about the money, it's about protecting yourself from her hurtful behavior. Chocolate Candabar. NTA, your mom is just scapegoating you and the whole family is following the flow. The person who is in the will should do it, should be your mantra reply to everyone, including your brother. What she has left for your kids don't compare with not having your mom at home and being stolen of money that could be used for the family only for the golden child uncle to not be bothered. People are free to write whatever they want in their wills, but this doesn't come without consequences when there's unfair treatment to this level. Also, the fact that your mom doesn't even want to discuss it with you should give you the measure of how little respect she has for you when she still has no problem asking you for favors. This is not just about money. Sure. I have 2 siblings and a mentally ill mother. She presents herself differently with each of us. My brother gets the, woe is me, I'm so fragile and helpless, version, my sisters gets then, life is so much easier for everyone else. I have nothing and no one loves me, version, and I get the chipper, positive outlook version. My siblings have spouses, homes, kids. I, on the other hand, am single, childless, and rent. Our mother's guilt weighs on them heavily, and they always feel responsible for her. I always assumed my mom went to them with her problems because she saw me as the screw-up, which is why she doesn't dump anything on me. We all live around the same distance away from her. All of this to say, I was talking to my sister the other day and she was telling me all the things that were going on in her own life. She was tired and at capacity, and then mom has to redo her whole yard, so I have to deal with that now. And I asked her why. And she didn't really have an answer. I told her that mom is an adult and can deal with having someone redo her lawn on her own. Why is it my sister's responsibility to fix issues that my mother created for herself? That's when it dawned on me that my mom doesn't come to me with her problems because she thinks I'm incapable. She doesn't come to me because I don't drop everything to help her or help her problem solve. She has her mental illness, but she is, by all means, a capable adult with plenty of resources. I take the "that sucks. But at least X, Y, and Z. And we learn this from that, etc. route and don't submit myself to her problems and make them my own. I've indirectly set boundaries, and she respects that wholeheartedly. It was strange. Now you need to do the same.